views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome. Well, there's wrong screen. Okay, now we're good now. Okay, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm Nisa.
I'm Carlos.
And I'm sitting in the bunker.
And he's CJ, in case you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
CJ.
Well,
We have a full house today.
Yes,
yeah, we got a
do.
full house, and it's Friday, and of course we have a new controversy that's you know, being lit up on Facebook. It's going viral here on Facebook, I guess. The big photographed ballot controversy. So I'll let CJ weigh in on that first, because I know he was talking about it earlier. So.
Well, you know, I find it interesting that on Tuesday during the election, Jasiel Correa had his staffer take a photograph of him voting. One of those pictures was of him walking away from the place that you fill out your ballot, and the ballot is clearly visible in that picture. Jasiel had posted that picture, one of 4, on his campaign page. Somebody snagged that picture off of Facebook and blew it up, and then stated who he voted for. And the question then became, well, I guess these are the alliances already made. The police got involved. The police actually went to WSAR and Rick Oliveira and asked, what are you going to report? And the first time in the history of Rick Oliveira's career, he's never been asked by the police department, what are you going to vote, report on? But you know, I think the bigger thing here is that Jasiel Correa filed a police report. In the police report, he says very clearly that it was a campaign staffer who took the pictures. And he wants the person who blew up this picture to be cited under Mass General Law. Well, the law says that you cannot take a photograph of a completed ballot. It does not say you can't blow one up. So, you know, candidate Correa, I have to ask you very clearly, are you going to prosecute your campaign staffer for taking a picture of your completed ballot?
Well, it wasn't his campaign staffer that blew it up, was it?
No, it wasn't.
It was obviously an opponent. So this is again attempting to divert attention from, you know, the nuts and bolts of this election, and the fact that they don't want the you know, Sam Sutter's record examined any more deeply. You know, look, the reality is, you know, candidates are photographed all the time. They're videotaped going to the ballot box. I don't know that, you know, the campaign staffer was even aware, but hey, kudos. He said, you know, the law applies to everybody, so I look at it as a positive. You know, but I think it's much to do about nothing. You know, the reality is, okay, everybody's going to make all these, you know, they're going to try to spin this positively and negatively, but the reality is, listen, people, you know, the bottom line is that we have an election that should be decided on whether we're happy with the way the city of Fall River is being governed, if we want to change, and look at the individual platforms. The reality of the situation is, look, okay, should you do it? All right, well, you know, I mean, obviously he wants pictures of himself, you know, voting, and it was a faux pas, there's no doubt about it, but I mean, is it something that, you know, like I said, it's much to do about nothing. And it actually, if I look at Jasiel, it goes along with what his fundamental, you know, character is and MO. And I know that last night somebody told me that people on there saying that he signed the recall petition under duress, which is absolute baloney. I was standing there when he signed the petition for the recall. He left the council chambers and walked down into the lobby of City Hall in order to sign that petition. And so to all you fools who continue to try to pretend that he did it under some kind of duress, that's absolutely false. The fact is he could have remained in his seat in the city council chamber until the recallers were gone. Because before the meeting even began, we were across the street numbering the petitions. And if I'm not speaking the truth, CJ is right there. He was the one he was one of the people numbering the petitions.
This is correct.
So if Jasiel Correa did not want to sign the recall petition, he would have stayed in his seat. He wouldn't have left his seat and walked downstairs to the lobby. And when he signed it, he made the statement that while I disagree with the recall, you have a right as voters to do this, and I will sign the petition. And I thought, and I told him then, I thought that was, an impressive stance, a person who really understands that government is of the people, by the people, and if somebody disagrees with you, they still have fundamental rights in this country. And if he wants his campaign staff ascension, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It was an inadvertent, but the person who took the photo probably had no idea that they were going to capture the ballot enough to be blown up and do this. But again, here we go again, like we did in a recall. I lived in Tiverton, and they went in. They made all these absurdities to do what? To take the focus off what this is about. Do you want to change the government in the city of Fall River? And with that, I'll turn it over to my co-host here.
I saw the picture, and very easy, that picture could be changed. The technology today, we can change the picture in any way we want.
Absolutely.
In any way we want. The fact is, and I'm a Jasiel supporter, the way I take it, I don't care who you vote for, because I'm not going to support him based on who he voted for. I'm going to support him on the fact that I think that he has not just a better chance, but he's telling me that that what he's going to do for the city. And that's based on that I'm going to support it. I'm not going to support it. And he needs to realize this. This is going to be the longest 6 weeks that he ever lived on his life, because every day something's going to come out that is going to try to bump him out of his shoes. So, and I know, but again, instead of you trying to destroy somebody, prove me that I'm wrong supporting Jasiel. And how you're going to prove me wrong is being positive, and instead of just throwing trash to people, prove me wrong. Prove me that you're doing good for the city, and prove me that I'm wrong by actions that you're doing. So with that being said, I think that didn't change me a bit on my thinking and on my support. And the more trash they're going to throw at my candidate now, more support he's going to get from me. That's my view.
Thank you, Carlos.
Lisa, you got any comment on that?
Well, what you were stating, I couldn't have put it better myself, because it does make sense. And if actions speak louder than words, then I must say that you should take some consideration, Carlos, all due respect to the statements that Chip just had made.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, look, it's, the picture taking is a thing, but I mean, look, there are people who hide their ballots, and it is a secret ballot. Nobody
Yes.
goes in a voting booth with you. But I've had circumstances where I was voting against a mayoral candidate when I was when I was obviously a vocal opponent of that mayor as the president of the union. And when I marked my X for his opponent, and I walked to put it in the ballot box, and I checked out. I showed the ballot to the checkout people. It's like, hey, you want to look at my ballot? Because everybody knows who I'm voting for anyway. But the fact is, as you said, you vote for who you want to vote for, and let's vote on issues, not on anything else. And this is going to happen, like you said. This is going to be the most torturous 6 weeks of Jasiel's life, because we've all seen this, and it wasn't that long ago during the recall. We saw some of the absurdities that were put on Facebook about everybody in the, they went into their voting records, they went into their criminal records, they even created stuff when it was, and this is another, created. I mean, the only thing they could get on me was I lived in Rhode Island and I was a chiropractor, but, which was,
Thank you, Dr. Camaro.
Yeah, well, it cost me a lot of money to get that, but it was for my son. But I mean, this is what you're up against in a political season, and this is why we're here to kind of tell you that, listen, don't listen to the rhetoric, don't listen to even our rhetoric. We're gonna say what we want to say, and you listen and you weigh it, but do your own research, because we heard people saying that. Well, there's another issue, I guess, CJ and I were talking about this Hyacinth Street issue. That's it's over a year old, it's over a year old. Nothing's been done about it, and ironically, there are city councilors who have ignored a serious issue in this neighborhood, on this street. And these are the kind of things that when you're voting for people, you have to know what they're doing in their capacity. And then you listen to other people's campaign promises, and then you have to judge them and then hold them to accountability. But this is the whole exercise here in democracy. It's about having an educated voter. This is why they don't like people to be well-educated and informed voters, because they might actually vote the right way. So I think Nisa has a thing she wants to segue in.
Yes, I wanted our viewers to take into consideration, and we have a Facebook page, Spindle City Straight Talk, that I'm pretty sure our viewers are all aware of. And recently, baby Bella has been identified, and they show that the parents were in fact involved, shockingly. Not really, but the boyfriend of the mother of this child apparently murdered this child, and she was left in the waters of Massachusetts. So there is a petition here to save innocent children that are living at risk of the situations, to protect the little lives. And I'm reading this from change.org, which I will provide on our Spindle City Facebook page. And this is basically a petition to create, to finally address these issues. So all those receiving public free money for assistance must be drug tested in order to receive public assistance. The important part of the drug testing is that for those who receive welfare is to protect children like Bella. This is the main reason it should be strictly enforced, and I would like to ask our viewers to voice our opinions on that, because I would like to share them on our next show.
Well, that's obviously that is something that's very, very important. It transcends any kind of political affiliations and any kind of even geographical restrictions. I mean, to have a child, be murdered and put in a bag and stuck in a freezer and then thrown in the water it's just mind-boggling. And this is why Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, said that man is the only animal that can blush and the only one that needs to, because our humanity sometimes you have to question it, and they don't want what I think about what should be done to these two people, because there's a new TV program that I would volunteer for. It's called the expletive that starts with a B, executioner. And I would volunteer to be the executioner. And I encourage everybody to get on our page, share, as Nisa said, and support this initiative. And I know there's going to be a tremendous amount of pushback from the quote unquote, oh, this is discrimination, we're gonna, this is a violation of their rights, it's, why should you mandatorily drug test them? Well, there's your reason right there.
Well, yes, just to elaborate, for those that don't know, there was an issue with drug use, substance abuse with the parents, which most likely put this child in danger. Well, not most likely. The child clearly was in danger in the hands of these people. But like you said, there will be people that would be opposed to this for many reasons. And I myself specifically will share that on our next show. Not that I am opposed to having these people get drug tested, because I think it should. But there should be more to this petition in regards to having these people transition into a clean state of being sober. So yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
And as we know, down south, I believe it was Florida and maybe Kentucky, instituted regulations which specifically required that people receiving public assistance be drug tested. And the statistics proved that less than like 1% of those tested positive. Not because they weren't users, but because they know how to play the game. They know how to game the system. So I think that the idea is laudable and is something that we as a state, we as a society should consider. But again, I think that we all need to realize up front that you cannot force somebody to go into detox. They have to choose to recover. And that's a choice that's very difficult for a lot of these people to come to.
Yeah, you're right, CJ. But there are some drug testing methods that are pretty hard to escape. I mean, if you look at the hair follicles and stuff like that, and the city, and the states and governments love to waste money, and this is not a waste. So if it costs a little more to do a test that's very difficult to duck, that's fine. And as you said, there's no requirement. You can't force these people into a detox, but what you can do is take any at-risk children away and make sure that they are allowed to grow up and have a life. As this poor young girl will never enjoy her life, never go to school, never really have it's deplorable. I can't even. When I run out of words, it's bad. But this angers me so much. I want to take action. I don't want to talk about this. So, get on the Facebook
Flip
page
tables,
and
Chip? Is that it? You just want to
flip. Yeah, I want to actually do a little bit more than that. I'd like to get some blood on my samurai sword, but that's it. So let's get on there. Let's give Nisa plenty of comments to respond to on our next show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And back to the city now. What? Should we hit the Hyacinth? You want to give us the background on the Hyacinth issue?
Yeah, sure. Why not? In 2014, 2014, a year ago, actually it's approximately 16 months ago, a resident of Hyacinth Street filed a complaint with the city council and then Mayor Will Flanagan. That complaint was filed in May. It was brought up by the city council committee on transportation, public works and transportation, or something along that lines, and tabled on June 6th. It was then brought up again in July, on July 3rd, and it was tabled. And it was brought up once again, and it was tabled. The woman who filed this complaint, her name is Strollo. She lives down on Hyacinth Street, and every time there's a rainstorm, she takes out her canoe to get off the street. But she notes in her complaint that Ken Pacheco, director of the Department of Community Maintenance, lives on Hyacinth Street, and his home does not have this problem. Now, you could say that's just the location of his home, or they made sure that it didn't happen. I'll leave that for the viewers to decide. I think that the thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that the committee that tabled this item, and I'm not calling anyone out, I'm going to state a fact, consists of Ray Mitchell, Linda Pereira, and Dan Rigo. And they've all tabled this up to just before the general election. Chip, I'm going to leave it into the panelists' hands there.
Well,
the anchor desk.
Is that actually a committee, or was that an ad hoc meeting of the Sam Sellout Club? I don't know. But look, it's deplorable. We've seen it as community activists and community commenters. We've seen this time and time again. I can guarantee you, if Kenny Pacheco's house was being flooded, they would have been on that. They wouldn't have had to go before the council. There would have been trucks and Bisco backhoes and all kinds of things in front of that street and making sure the grade was proper. But the fact is, we've seen this time and time again. We see people in front of their, well, it was what, last month when those two individuals came in and talked about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars they've spent on their properties because of issues with the city, and it goes unaddressed. Again, we have a situation where certain people get the service and certain people don't. And that's wrong. The fact is, if you're a taxpayer, a resident of this city, everybody should get equal treatment. If you have a problem, it should be addressed. You shouldn't go to the bottom of the pile and stay there every time someone who calls somebody that's connected makes a phone call to City Hall. And, you know, that has to change. And I will talk, if we do have a new mayor, that's one of the first issues I'm going to address about this favoritism and about political connections, because I will now on the air discuss an issue that just happened to me. As some of you, or most of you that watch this show, you watch city councils. You know, I went before the council last month and complained about the retirement system not being funded. And when I did, Ray Mitchell went over to the treasurer's office or the auditor's office. I'm not sure which one because it's irrelevant. You know, the issue was that we weren't being paid, but he went over to check on it because, you know, Ray's a retiree, so he has a vested interest, so he went to check. And then he called me back and said, yeah, you know, I checked on it and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, oh, yeah, but the clerk was kind of like put off. Well, you know, what are you checking for him for? Well, what are you checking for me for? Well, number one, I'm a taxpayer. Number two, I'm a retiree. And number three, I'm an elected member of the retirement board. So I will tell you what I did. I don't even want to know who it is, because the next time I go in that office, it will become extremely acrimonious. So, you know, I went to Madeline Coelho, the director of Human Resources. I told her what happened. I told her to go to Ray, and she said, "Well, do you want to know who did?" I said, "No, absolutely not. What I want you to do is I want you to go to Ray and let him corroborate what he told me." And then I want you to explain to that individual and put out a memo to everybody that works in this city that you work for the taxpayers. And because you dislike someone, whether it's because of their political affiliation or for any other reason, your job is to service them the same way you service everybody. And the fact is, you are a public servant. And if you're, and I told her very clearly, if I ever find out anybody in City Hall intentionally delays information that I'm guaranteed under the law to get, I will then proceed to try to get them terminated. Because the fact is, police officers and firefighters don't do background checks before they respond to an emergency incident. I never checked a person's race, creed, color, financial status when we rolled out to a fire. This is what you have to do in the city. Every single person that's a city resident deserves equal treatment, and that cannot be tolerated. We've got too many political hacks in the city hall now who are appointed by politicians and got their jobs and think they're untouchable. And the fact is, that's not the way it used to be. Years ago, there were people that were in City Hall and worked as clerks for 30, 40 years. They knew everybody almost by name in the city. And you got good service. But that attitude is unacceptable. If I don't like you, and if I don't like your politics, well, we can argue over politics and not go out and have a beer. But when I'm getting paid to do a job, I do the job. And that's what has to happen in this city. We have to begin to treat every citizen the same way and have a sensitivity for everyone. And that's not happening right now.
I agree.
And another thing, that didn't happen just on that office. You know, I because of the stuff that we have to do around our neighborhoods, I need to get in touch with different places, head departments, and it's just the way they treat people. It's like they having it sounds like they don't like their job, but they need a paycheck. So they're not there to do their job, they're there to get a paycheck. And the way they treat, and I said this to Jasiel, your problem starts at City Hall. So even before you try to fix outside City Hall, you need to work City Hall first, because a person goes there for an information and just get handled a paper and say fill it up and bring it back without you have any questions, okay? That person should not be working for this city, and especially be in charge of a position that he's working for. So it is a lot of work to be done inside City Hall. And I hope with that will be part of the cleanup.
I agree, Carlos. And see, it's not just a lack of customer service that they would have there. It's just a lack of common courtesy. Mm-hmm. If you're there, here's the application. What else can we help you with? They need to remember that they work for us. Yes. You know, they're acting like we are going there for, here, do me a favor, yes, or some type of charity. This is the fact of the matter is that you work for us, the people.
But the problem is they're holding those jobs for so long that they already forgot they could be fired. That's the problem.
That's a good point. That's actually
you're right, Nisa, and that's the problem. And it becomes, as he said, there's a difference. They work for us, they're providing us a service. But they've got to remember that it's our money that they're collecting. It's our money that pays their salary. And the fact is that...
Which is why they work for us.
Exactly. Well, it's like if you go to a bank and ask for a loan, maybe you have to put up with their baloney because you need the money.
Correct.
But when you're going to City Hall to get and I've heard this from people who were doing things that we should be encouraging. How many times have we heard people trying to get building permits or improve their properties, and they get all kinds of crap when they walk in there? So, this all gets down to a bottom line, people.
Common courtesy?
Common courtesy, and why we need to hold people accountable, especially our politicians, because our government has allowed this city to get this way.
Exactly. And it happens at City Hall. And I just got a call a couple of days ago. A nonprofit organization is trying to do a fundraiser, and the city came up with a new application. So it's a new permit that is going to have to come up. And I was talking to somebody, I said, did you do stuff for the city? Did you pull up the permits? And said, no, that's the thing. When the city does it, they don't need the permits, but when it's somebody else, they keep creating permits.
Well, that's a whole subject for another show. We've got, but I mean, you know a person who's got one of the most significant. Go ahead.
Oh,
close.
No.
We're going.
I'm supposed to close?
I don't know. No.
Stay angry. Is that what you said?
That's right.
And for me, I see you next week.
Thanks for watching.
Please.
This is Spindle City Straight Talk. We're getting there.
Voice your opinions on our Facebook page. Thank you.
That's right. Don't forget baby Bella.
Thanks for watching.